Yo, what it is. Welcome back to the third intermission, y'all. It's Avery here in the host chair once again, joined by Troy as finally things are warming up. Things are getting warmer. There's no snow on the ground here in Edmonton, Troy. Snow is starting to melt. How are things out in Ontario?
Things over here, it's looking kind of good. I mean, it still wouldn't exactly go out and source in a t-shirt, but that hasn't stopped some people over here. The snow is finally melting, except for on my driveway. It's pretty nice out. It rained a little bit here and there, but not enough to melt all that white stuff that's covering my driveway still.
Um,
Um, but I hear the weather's supposed to be nice this week, so hopefully this time I'll get my garbage out properly on
have another,
Wednesday.
have to go to
It's,
another episode of Troy's Driveway again.
that mound in the parking lot is still massive. Like that thing is gonna take forever to melt, and that guy's car is still blocked in. So I'm
Oh
gonna have
my.
to wait until that's all gone to move that car.
Oh my goodness. The adventures of Troy's property and them. And during intermission, we're back. And so now we were saying in our group chat earlier how the preparations for the Maple Leafs funeral. And Troy, have you come to grips yet with that this Leafs season is cooked, it's done, it's flambéed, it's finished like some hibachi on the grill. Because right now with 18, 19 games to go and his Leafs team still sputtering. At this point, you know what? The miracle of this team getting back into things, I think that died last week.
So yeah, like they're cooked like burnt toast. But I I feel like the season got lost somewhere around like November, December. Um, just like the random injuries, and just the overall inconsistencies and like no desire from anyone up top to try and fix it. They waited until the trade deadline, and yes, well, we did get some picks back, but it's like, especially for a guy like Mike Scott Lawton, like we got back less for him than what we paid to get him, which is unreal because of how useful Lawton is to other teams. Um, am I fully ready to write them off? Well, yeah, really. We're just waiting for for them to be mathematically eliminated, which I imagine will come shortly. Um, Especially if they continue playing as poorly as they've been off of the Olympic break. Like I watched the Saturday game against Tampa Bay, and that was just just. I've never seen a team get consistently worse after each period like I did on Saturday night. That was just a terrible game to watch. Um, like many Leaf fans, we're probably at this point just mercifully waiting for this season to end, waiting to see if they clean house or not. Which honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. What would surprise me is if they clean house and they brought in old recycled names, and we're just going to repeat the process again next.
This Leafs team right now, currently the time of this taping of the podcast, sits at 27, 26, and 11 for 65 points. Only better than the New York Rangers in the Atlantic Division. I look at this team right now, I think to myself, you're right, Troy. This team just hasn't been able to figure anything out post trade deadline. They are sellers. They're sellers. You know, McMahon's gone. You're out here and you've had to go on full seller. And this Leafs team right now, the direction of Berube and company is just baffling because again, the window when the season began, the window was open to try and make some noise. And this is as near worst case scenario as possible to be sitting at 65 points and so far beyond back of the second wildcard spot. It's not even funny right now. This team is 9 points back of wildcard two behind Boston, and there's so much ground to make up on teams like Ottawa and Columbus, in which, yeah, this season is a write off. And you mentioned the names, you mentioned Troy, the recycling of names. And right now, if you're MLSC, if you're Keith Pelly and company, at this point, you know what? That leash for Bradshaw Living and Craig Berube, it's small. It's as small as could be. I wouldn't be shocked if next year both these guys are gone. But you're right, this team can't go in and recycle again, like so many teams do. I've said it before in this show. You want to bring some life back to this team. Go out and get David Carl from U of Denver. That is someone who I know is going to have a ton of suitors this offseason for an NHL job. I know he said before he likes coaching college hockey. He wants to stay at U of Denver. But at a certain point, that allure of being an NHL coach gets to everybody. So if you're Toronto, go out to Denver with a blind check and say how much you want.
But then you also got to make sure that he's got to have that he has the right pieces to work with. You can't give him like a start from scratch 2K roster and expect him to pull miracles. It's not going to happen. They're gonna if they do that to him, they're gonna use him as a scapegoat and be like, "Oh, we brought in the wrong guy because he can't work with what he has." And then that's when you bring in the dumb old recycled names again. And then again, like it's a never ending cycle of stupidness in Leafland.
And you're right. You're totally right on that, Troy. Is that yeah? David Carlson gonna need a solid stuff around him. Yeah, you're right. It can't be we bring in a college guy and he fails. Look, see, college guys can't coach this level in this organization. Never again. And here's some John Tortorella for you. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. It feels like that's what it feels like. If the new guy fails, you're gonna get a tort, or you're gonna get I don't know Randy Carlisle Part Five coming back to Toronto.
I'll take I'll take Booth Boudreaux. I mean, that's probably the only old guy I'd take. Other than that, no, man, you got to go off the board, like you said. You got to get a name that nobody's heard of and let him prove his worth.
Yeah, and Bruce is someone where we've all said before, there's a lot of time for Bruce because he is that one older coach who's found ways. He's an older coach who's found ways to adapt and reinvent himself in the modern NHL compared to other coaches who have hung around and their act has run thin over the years. Those guys like the Tortorellas, like the Mike Keenans, who they try to reinvent themselves in modern hockey and they just flame out at a certain point, be it a 2 to 3 year mark in hockey. And again, something like a Rick Bonus. He is in Columbus right now, but we know Rick Bonus, that timeline, he's got a maximum a year or two before he's going in front of a podium and nearly cussing out his team like he did in Winnipeg when Vegas beat them in the first round.
Yeah, he better hope that his team does good so he doesn't have a part two of that because I'm sure that's going to be flames again.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, look at this team right now for the Leafs. And again, the page is turning to next year. The page is clearly turning to next year. So, in terms of behind the bench on the ice, Troy, and even upstairs, who do you want to see either return for next year, or who do you want to see come in fresh for 26, 27, Troy?
Um, Free living. I'm sorry, my dude. Maybe go run a Boston Pizza. You might be better at that than running a team. Um, he target number one. He's got to go. He's got to go. Like the fact that it took you to the trade deadline to realize that your roster was hot, it was a hot bag of doo doo. Like what are you doing? What are you paying? What are you watching in the offices of MLSE? Like, are you the kid who has like a comic book in his textbook in school and not actually paying attention to what you should be and just kind of goofing off? Like, are you watching Netflix on your phone instead of like looking to see what your other cohorts are doing around you? Like TikTok can't be that exciting for a businessman trying to run a team. Like you gotta be on the phone all the time. Pay attention to what's happening with your team. Like, how long did it take him to realize that he got nothing? again, no disrespect to Dakota Joshua and Nicholas Roy.
Mhm.
Phenomenal NHL players. It just didn't work here in Toronto. But how long did it take him to realize that like he didn't get what he needed from Martin? Why did you wait so long to become a seller? Why
Yeah.
is your policy not trading during the season? Why does that make sense for you? He is priority number one. I'm still not sold on letting Berube go just yet. Um, you can't really blame this season on him because he doesn't go out and make the trades and
Mhm.
signs people Free Living does. So I can't really fault him for an unsuccessful season. You know, I I I really hate the idea sometimes of making the coach the scapegoat because you can't fire the players. Yeah, you can. You can fucking trade them. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. You can trade them. You can trade them. You don't always have to fire the coach. I mean, yes, in certain cases when you know that they've lost the room, sure. Like are they pulling what's his name? The Babcock. Is he like a Babcock or something like that? Like, okay,
Mhm.
then yeah, make a move. But because your general manager put together a roster, it's like like how people pick their vacations when they put a blindfold on and they spin the globe and wherever their finger stops is where they go. It's
Yep.
basically like that's basically like how he made his roster. Just gave him a list, closed his eyes, pointed at the screen. Okay, that's my guy, regardless of whether or not this works. Can't do it like that. You gotta pay attention. In terms of player personnel, I think it's time you explore the market and see what you can get from Morgan Riley. I
Mhm.
know his contract is huge, but I think I don't want to say he's a bad player because he's not. I think he'll become the player he's meant to be somewhere else. But like most guys who play defense for Toronto and they leave, they get better. Well, maybe not so much Justin Hall, but yeah, like I think he'll become the player he's meant to be somewhere else. I think because he's one of the longest serving Leafs, he feels the burden and the pressure of being the leader on defense, and especially when other bigger names around him get acquired and are getting hurt. I mean, like, yeah, I don't want to see him go, but like I said, I think it's time to explore the market, see what you can get for him. Um, Same thing with Max Domi. I, I, I don't think he ultimately fit what we were looking for and what they're going to be looking for going forward. Yes, he brings some grit and some tenacity, but he's not consistent enough to be hogging a roster spot that could go to somebody on the Marlies who's hungrier and wants that more than him. I think you take a look at keeping Jake Quillen up, Ethan Cowan, give them longer looks. Um, and for heaven's sakes, use Nick Robertson more. Like, you know what this man can bring you. Use him. Goaltending, I think now that they've more or less admitted that it's a lot, this season's a lost cause, I think you give Hildaby, I think you call Hildaby up and you give him some more starts. Which goalie sits, flip a coin. But I think you got to give Hildaby some more starts down the stretch, just so that way you know for sure he's NHL ready. I wouldn't use him as a trading chip because once I don't recall, but like our goaltending depth, I don't think is that deep. And I mean, who do you have that's left? Primo? Yeah, no thanks. I will take Hildebrand. If you can find a taker for Primo, sure, but no, man, you got to hold on to Hildebrand.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you made a good point on the Morgan Riley deal because, yeah, again, similar in the vein of when you come across the Darnell Nurse deal here at Edmonton, the big thing is who's going to take these deals? Who's going to take on those cap hits? So right now, Toronto is kind of handcuffed when it comes to who's going to take on Morgan Riley. What is the call there for that? And when it comes to Brad Treliving, I'll say this much. Treliving knew he had a horrible deadline. He knew this team was cooked. And I'll give Treliving credit for going up there on when deadline day ended, for going up there and flat out saying this is on me. This is my bad that his team looks like this after dealing McMahon, Lawton, Roy, and what's going on. I'll give him full credit for diving on his sword and not shifting the blame. And you know what? That might buy him some more time. It might, be a guy who says, this is on me, but we'll see, Troy.
Do you so let's say Tree Living does get the axe. Do you let him oversee the draft, or do you keep him long enough for free agency and then cut him?
You know what? I do believe if you're gonna get rid of somebody, do it as quick as possible. Don't prolong it. Don't give them a level of hope that this is still their team or this is still being done in their vision. I mean, we saw it with Pierre Chiarelli in Edmonton, where Chiarelli got to make more signings and deals and then was fired 2 days later. Like, if you know you're gonna get rid of the man, if you know his time is up when the season is over, pull the bandage off and say, you know what, Brad, thanks for everything, but we're moving on. Don't give that hope or assumption that he's still your GM going into the draft of free agency. Once this year is done, you cut ties, say la vie, have your assistants handle the rest, and get that search going to find a new GM as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think if you do that, you definitely should have somebody in mind already to go in place. Because again, like you said, you've had all that time to make your decision. Like, why are you gonna let him make some picks, knowing that you're still gonna fire him basically right after the draft?
Yeah, like I it always irritates me when I see teams do that where where when teams do that where they know they're gonna fire somebody, they know this guy isn't their GM of the future, and they still let him draft or they still let him handle free agency. Like, why? You are letting somebody whose vision you no longer believe in take you forward, and then you're gonna fire them? That doesn't make what that is 1 plus 1 equals 4 stupid.
Didn't the Leafs do the same thing with Don Ferguson Jr. when he was ready to move on? They kept him on board more or less long enough to do the draft and then said sayonara. Or was
Like,
that kind of like a different circumstance, but still kind of the outcome was the same, where it's like he oversaw the draft knowing he was leaving?
I think it was somewhat similar, if I recall correctly. Of course, I'm sure someone listening or watching the show will be able to correct us on that in real time. But you're right. I think it was similar with JFJ. But the idea to me is just it's bizarre. You're gonna let somebody go, get to work as soon as possible on finding his replacement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
for me though, if you're gonna get like I agree, if you're gonna get rid of Tree Living, as soon as that season is done, you make that announcement, let your search begin if you don't have somebody in mind already. You've seen what he's done to this team. He's even admitted what he's done to this team.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let him oversee another draft.
Like, no, I don't like, and it's tough because you know what? I feel for the fan base. I get the frustration because it looked like there was those glimmers of hope, and everybody listened to what Keith Pelly's vision was. And right now, I've seen people online also turning on Pelly as well too, and saying, "Are you fit to lead this team as president or as the big boss?" I guess since the president role no longer exists, because I've seen people wondering, is he fit to be that guy who can lead MLSC into the future?
Yeah.
So. Oh, frustrating. We'll see what happens with the Leafs ahead as the season starts to wind down for Toronto. And going from the Leafs to general trade deadline day, past it's come and gone, and we'll get into some of the more deals interesting. And for me, Troy, my deal to me, I thought the most interesting in my mind was the Avalanche getting back Nazem Kadri because this is a team in which, Landeskog out for a few weeks here, but you still have Makar, still have Taves. You are still a team that is dangerous as heck. And for Colorado, they want to get past Dallas again. They want to figure out how to get past the Stars. So to me, if you're Colorado, adding Nazem and Kadri at the buzzer, that was a great move.
Yeah, I think Colorado just skyrocketed to the top of like the charts of winning the Stanley Cup here. Like like you said, they're built pretty solid. They got tremendous depth at center. Their defense is amazing. They've got two of the best goalies
Mm-hmm.
in the league. And like they're you've got a hungry Nathan McKinnon.
Yep.
Like this man wants it bad. And like it it's gonna take a lot to stop him. Like he's like there is a lot of star power on that team, but like I can see this man going leveling up like McDavid and just putting the other 22 dudes on his back and saying, "Let's go for a ride."
That's the thing, but you're right. Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid have levels of drive that are just disgusting in terms of they will not be denied. They will run through a brick wall, two brick walls, three. They got a level of wanting to win that other guys in the league just don't have. Actually, I'll also Drysdale in there as well too, in terms of levels of dedication that McDavid, Drysdale, McKinnon. But yeah, Nate McKinnon, he's the kind of guy that people call him wild, people call him unhinged, but that's the kind of guy you need for the Avalanche to get over the top. I mean, and he's done it before. He led this team before without Gabe Landeskog for what was virtually 2 seasons.
Yeah, and that too. Like they have a healthy Gabe Landeskog too, which gives them added firepower to such a crazy lineup as it is. Because I mean, like if you're lining up against them, it's like you you cannot miss assignment because
Hmm.
they're going to burn you every chance they get. Like it's got to be like man coverage. Everybody's got to know who's on the ice all times. And you got to do your homework on the goalies too. But yeah, like you can't be slacking in the Western Conference against Colorado.
No, not at all. Not at all.
For me,
Hmm.
um, I think Warren Fogle going to Ottawa is it's a good move for them. I mean, they're Ottawa's looking to make some noise in the Eastern Conference. Um, I think Warren Fogle was a good name to pick up for them. It didn't cost them a whole lot. The one thing that did surprise me, other than Vegas not making any moves, no goalies got moved.
That's right.
Nobody addressed their goaltending, so everybody thinks that they're set the way they are come April.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Um, John Carlson leaving Washington leaves Ovechkin and I think somebody else from their Stanley Cup roster. There's only him and one other dude that's left. Everybody else is turned over. Um, yeah, I didn't see the John Carlson thing coming. Buffalo getting uh, Stanley and Shen because somebody in that camp bought the Pareko trade. Um, that was I guess a good move for them because all they gave up really were picks. But those are two guys that are kind of getting on in age a little bit, but they're still very serviceable defensemen. But yeah, definitely the no goalies being moved and Vegas not swinging some crazy trade was definitely my surprise of things that didn't happen.
Yeah. And you mentioned right there, John Carlson. Yeah, I never thought I'd see the day where John Carlson was not playing for the Washington Capitals. Him going to Anaheim is interesting. That's a team in which Anaheim, right now, that's a team where I knew they would eventually be a good team again. I didn't think they would be threatening for. I think they would be possible Pacific Division winners. I mean, that division right now has been yikes, but adding him to the Ducks right now, that makes that team even scarier to me, Troy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like for the last few years, like we knew the Ducks were bad and that they were gonna get good. We just didn't think they were gonna be this good this quick. Same thing with the Sharks. I mean, the Sharks, their goaltending is still terrible, but they're gonna be the next ones on the up and up. Like I watch them, they're coming. But the Ducks, yeah, like it's entirely possible that they win that strange division that they're in. But yeah, he joins a very good offensive team. He adds some stability on the back end. Um, and he joins the team with Radko Gudas, so at least he doesn't have to worry about him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, yeah, they're free. Leaf fans are safe from Radko Gudas. See, they're putting on their Facebook stats right now. Safe from Radko in 2026. Oh my goodness. And before we get to our last topic, what was probably game of the year between Buffalo and Tampa? Talk about teams that are shocking the world. The Sabres with an 8-7. That's right, an 8-7 win over the Lightning. The Sabres, division leaders in a game that had everything goals, 1,000 fights. That Buffalo Sabres team, Troy, it's been 15 years and they're finally back in a playoff race and not just fighting for a wild card spot. Like I said, the Sabres are battling for a division title right now.
It must feel nice in Buffalo to have actual Buffalo fans in their seat in their arena instead of it being half filled with Leaf fans. Um, but no, for real though, like the Buffalo Sabres, like they've been on the cusp for a while now. All they were missing was just like a couple of pieces here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Getting Alex Tuck out of Vegas has helped them tremendously. Um, Tage Thompson, how do you? He's massive. Like
Right?
he is everything he's everything that Matt Rempe wishes he was. Like Tage Thompson, like he is a beast. What is he like 6'7", six
Yep.
eight, something like that? Guy skates like with the grace of a figure skater, and he's got a hand. You would think a dude that big is just meant to just stand in front of the net. Homie's got hands, all right. Like he's got some sick hands on him. Rasmus Dahlin on the back end, and like you were saying in that Tampa Buffalo game, like there were enough fights, bro. Like I think Sam Carrick's there now. Like he's little. He took on some dude that had at least 5 inches on him and held his own for a good few seconds before he got taken down to the ice. Like that's a scrappy team, man. Like Buffalo is definitely going to turn some heads in the playoffs. Um, do they have what it takes to go to the finals? I don't know, but I can see them winning at least 2 rounds for sure.
Yeah. Wouldn't that would be a heck of a story if this team finds a way to win multiple rounds. And we might end up getting a Buffalo Tampa series. Give me that. That would be a fun. Give me 7 games of Buffalo and Tampa, Troy.
Yes, I would watch that because if you got Tampa and Florida, you'd never see any hockey being played. It's just a boxing match for 60 minutes.
Yo, Tampa and Florida. Yo, we've seen. I know Florida is out of it as well too, but yo, we see what happens when Tampa and Florida meet up. That's nothing but bacchanal and chaos and yo. Every time those two teams play, it's somehow like
Violent.
it's violence with somehow everybody in Tampa jersey getting 80 suspensions.
Yeah. Oh. Speaking of suspension, did you see that Evgeny Malkin got 5 games?
Yes, yes.
I think
Getting
that's what the third suspension this year after countless others that could have been one.
that's
'Cause who was it? It was Rasmus Dahlin again that he got in the face. No, because Dahlin's causing problems for everybody.
exactly. No, you're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. Yeah, those of you who forgot, those of you who might have forgotten, if Game Malkin got a 5 game suspension for slashing Rasmus Dahlin, as Troy was saying, and again, I'm very surprised the league. It takes a lot. It takes a lot for the league to ever say suspension is more than 2 or 3 games. I was surprised they gave Malkin 5 because you never see him do it now.
Yeah. Did he deserve a suspension? Absolutely. I didn't think he was gonna get five. I thought he was gonna get three, just because that seems to be like the bare minimum.
Hmm.
Like if you're gonna hand out suspensions, the bare minimum seems to be three.
Yeah.
But there must have been something for them to be like somebody must have lobbied somewhere to be like this is at least five. So who knows what the conversation was, but yeah, it's definitely surprising to see him get five. I thought for sure three at most. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything to happen at all based on the Department of Player Stupidity's performance this entire season so far. Well, I
No.
guess good for them for finally paying attention. I guess because it made enough noise, Elliot. Um, that something had to happen, and I
Oh.
don't take that back. I said what I said.
And the thing is too is that you mentioned right there we you thought might have been no more than 3 gets 5. Again, the NHL. I know the NHL has the videos explaining things, but we still need NHL to explain fully how we get from say a 2 game suspension to a 4 to a 5. We're still lacking that. We said before we said on this show for years, NHL explain how suspension is worth 2 and explain how one is worth 4, explain how one is worth 5. The league still hasn't done that, Troy. Like
No, they can't be bothered to explain anything because then it's going to mean they're going to have to go back and look at the tape and then figure out, oh, damn, I'm wrong. I got to go back and change my decision again. This is a league that doesn't like to admit its fault. They doesn't like to admit that they're wrong. They're trying to find patchwork solutions to things instead of, coming up with a solution that actually works. Like fans, teams, executives, people from other sports leagues are just like, who's running this? Why is this?
because it's like there has to be at least with other suspensions or other punishments, other leagues. The NBA has a point system with technical fouls, where if you get a certain amount of technical fouls, you're suspended for this number of games. Like we can't bring in NHL where if you do A, you accumulate these amount of points. If you do B, you get 2 more. If you do C, you get 2 more. So at least you have some level of understanding that certain things will accumulate to get this level of punishment. It's all random. There's no level of how did you get to this action is 1 game. This action is 3. Because for a different player, Troy, the Malkin's cross check different player might have only been 2 or 3.
Yeah. And like an example of what you're saying is the Bobby McMahon suspension from earlier in the season.
Mm.
He got, I think he got fined and suspended for the love tap on Buddy's helmet. Whereas last season, the same thing happened, I think, with a Tampa player. He got absolutely nothing. So it's
Yeah.
just like, how do you how do you differentiate between the suspensions? Like, where's your explanation to say, okay, this guy got this because of this, and this guy got this much because of that? Like, what were those factors? And I don't know if it's been updated. The last I saw, I think in the NHL rulebook, it said like your repeat offender status goes away after like a year and a half or something like that, like a year or 2 years. So it's like a very small window.
Hmm.
Repeat offender status goes away. But I think, much like things on your driving record, that should follow you all the time, as opposed to it just randomly going away.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, and you're right, that window for the repeat offender stuff, it's a very small window. I mean, I think in terms of should it always be with you for your career? I mean, unless you're someone who's had, say, 10, 11 suspensions, should that stay with you? Probably, yeah, because you deserve that. You're always in trouble. But if you are what if you're someone who is suspended less, I think 1 game, I think 1 year or 2 is a little lenient. It should probably be a little bit longer. But yeah, the fact that it's very arbitrary in terms of who gets this, who gets that, and the length, it's just, I don't know. It's so bizarre, but it's so NHL, Troy. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like whatever they decide to part ways with George Peros, they definitely should go with an outside source, somebody who doesn't necessarily have nepotism ties of any kind to any team or anybody running a team. You know, have like have like a doctor do it, like not Doctor Phil or Doctor Oz, not those two. They're dead. Have like a real doctor do it, or like I don't know. You've mentioned before somebody like Paul Correa, like he doesn't have ties to anybody right now when he's been on the receiving end of these things on lot more than he cares to count.
Yeah.
Somebody unbiased.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
hey, and Joe, when you're ready to change up, Avery's available too. So am I. So is Jason.
Yeah, and I've said before to friends, if I got an NHL job that wasn't in the media side of things, I would want to work in the Department of Player Safety. I want that job in the Department of Player Safety if it wasn't in the media side of the NHL, doing something like that. Because I can actually have we're independent voices. We're independent voices that can see, yo, this should be multiple games. I will explain to you why, and not just throwing numbers on a dartboard every single time there's a dirty hit or a dirty play.
Yeah, because very rarely do they use that explanation. I think Shanahan was probably the only one who did that, or maybe Pronger was too. I think maybe it was Shanahan and Pronger, and then they just abandoned it when Peros took over.
Yeah, I think Paris done like a couple of those videos, but it's not very much.
No, which is a shame.
No, it is. And before we wrap things up, we'll end things up on a half funny, half weird note. If you've been paying attention to your social medias, if you're an avid Junior B hockey fan in Ontario, you probably know about the story of the Sarnia Legionnaires in the GOHL, Junior B hockey, who have pulled off one of the more shocking runs that I've ever come across. The end of their year at 0 and 50. No overtime losses, no shootout losses, no loser points. A full season of 0 and 50. I I don't even know in a sport in which you can get a point for just tying your skates correctly. The fact that this team in Sarnia got nothing, 50 straight losses in regulation. That in of itself is impressive, Troy.
It's impressively bad. That's what that is. Oh, and 50. I hope there's nobody betting on these games. I really hope not. Because if there is, somebody just got rich. Like, but 0 and 50 has got to be really demoralizing for those teenagers. Um, we were chatting before the show, and you said that there was three guys on that team who had at least 10 or more goals. So I mean,
Mm.
kudos to them for at least being able to score double digits in a forgettable season.
Yeah.
You can only imagine, assuming they actually had goalies and they didn't just randomly strap the pads on like your seventh defenseman. Um, you got to feel for the goalies too. Um, it makes you wonder, how was this team constructed? What was there a what was the scouting process? What was the scouting report? Who did you let do the scouting report? Like did anybody in management other than the scouts go and watch any of these games to see the kids that you were taking? Because clearly that didn't happen for them to end up 0 and 50.
No.
Um, yeah, I guess you just gotta pull the curtain close on another season and hope it doesn't happen again. because that's one end of the record book you don't want to be
No, not at all, Troy. So I did a little bit more of a deep dive on the Legionnaires, and when you look more into why this team is 150, you're starting to see where some things start to make sense. Where the team that had 18 rookie players, they had veterans who were traded last year. Their coach left in the summer, so it pretty much was an expansion team, essentially everything but name and legacy coming into play. And their captain spoke to CTV and said how I was proud of my teammates. We fought every single night. We battled. We built character. And their new head coach came in. So the new head coach came in, got a late start in recruiting, and that's a reason why this year just went off the rails immediately, and they became the first team in Junior B in North America to end the year winless in the former Midwestern Junior B League. Oshweekend went 0-47-1 in 97-98. So it's been almost 30 years since the team went winless in Junior B hockey. But you know what? I'll give him credit. We mentioned before on this team, three players scored 10 goals or more. On a winless team, I gotta admit, that's impressive. And hey, the fact that these kids came out every single game to battle in this kind of a year with that much turnover, you know what? I'll give them some kudos. To me, that deserves some kudos. I'll give them that, Troy.
on. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, and hearing that, like, it definitely changes an outside perspective on the season. Knowing now that there was so much turnover and basically just thrown right into the fire. Half your team is new from from management right down to the roster. It doesn't really give you a whole lot of time to gel and get used to everybody. I'm glad. Well, it sucks that it happened to them. Um, Imagine if that happened to the Leafs with how that roster's
Oh,
constructed. Ooh.
you know, man, if this level of season happened to an NHL team, especially Toronto, first of all, I'm pretty sure Omar and Dave would be running down to MLSC and demanding to see Keith Pelly. Like I'm sure they would be demanding to cuss them out in person if that were happening. All kind of patois, all kind of West Indian insults would be flying if that happened to the Maple Leafs from those two.
All the Leafs personnel, their key cards don't work, but the Raptors guys can still get in.
Holy, yeah, good. Ain't no way. I mean, even if we already see what happens when a Leafs team starts the year. I mean, you remember the infamous year, the 08-1 year. You remember how that was, Troy? With the wasn't that not the waffles year?
Yeah. But yeah, I think it started with the jerseys, and then yeah, it finished with the waffles. And every time there's like, please stop throwing things on the ice. Yeah, the waffles started because they're like, stop throwing jerseys. And then they were like, all right, fine, we're gonna do waffles instead, as a wake up kind of deal. And then they were just like, stop throwing waffles on the ice, and then it just kind of kept flipping between waffles and jerseys. And so many years later, I mean, nobody's throwing things on the ice, but they still didn't get the point. Wake up, do something.
No, you know, I'm actually impressed. I'm actually impressed there's been no jerseys tossed yet in at Scotiabank. Although, again, give it time, we might see a few fly if this team is, say, 20 points out by game 79 or game 80.
Whatever the last home game of the season is, I feel like we're gonna see one then.
Just bring in,
Save it for the last home game.
it'll be funny. It'll be funny if someone brought back the waffles at game 82. Just chuck them on the ice. Here.
Yeah, because I guess throwing alarm clock will damage the ice, right? So
No, you know what? Some smart aleck fan is going to go to the Longos in Scotiabank in the basement. They're gonna look for stationery. They're gonna look for a pad of pink post-it notes, and they're gonna throw pink post-it notes on the ice for Brad.
Oh, getting pink slipped.
Somebody, some smart like fan, some wise, you know what fan's gonna try that.
Yeah. Also, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we at the third intermission do not endorse actually throwing things on the ice, especially heavy ass objects like alarm clocks. Don't do it.
Mm-mm.
You will get in trouble. We will not be held liable for you deciding as a grown person to throw an alarm clock or a
No,
jersey or a wall. You'll still get in trouble for that. But anything heavy and destructive that could hit somebody that may not make it over the glass, don't. Don't do it.
because again, if you got money to go to a Leafs game, you got brains to know better.
Yeah. Save your bail money for something else.
Oh my goodness. Oh, we'll wrap things up here on that note on the third intermission. Any last thoughts, Troy?
um, Looking forward to another good week of hockey. See if teams can move up, see if teams move down, and let's see how worse the Leafs can get. I mean, you got to hit rock bottom before you can go up, right? Let's see how far this bottom is.
Oh my goodness, we definitely will see. And I want to give one final shout out to our own Marsha Joseph. We uploaded the audio of her at the Scotties from earlier this year. Great content going down there. Huge shout out to our friend Jolene Latimer helping us get Marsha set up at the Scotties Women in Curling event, getting that content. Because again, hey, we need to see more people who look like us out in curling. And yo, shout out to Jaden King, the first black skip at the Briar skipping team Ontario. That was amazing to see. Again, a black face at the Briar was amazing to see, Troy.
Yes, that was very nice. Very nice to see some much needed melanin in a
R-
curling rink. We're
right? Because
taking over all the sports.
hey, again, that, like it's a, curling was the last bastion of sports in Canada where I didn't see ourselves. We all know your story with Kim the curling in high school, Troy. So the fact that we now got a brother as a skip from Ontario rink, yo, can you imagine? Yo, can you imagine the day? Could you imagine if Ontario wins the Brier with Jaden King as their skip one day?
Hey, that'd be pretty nice. Well, I'm glad one of us found it interesting enough to go pro with it. So hey, who knows? Maybe he's a trendsetter. Hopefully he is.
Oh, goodness. And with that being said, thank you for letting us create space in between your head top. That's all for the third intermission. As always, drink your water, mind your business, and until next time, deuces.